All right. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. My name is Curtis Harms, and I'm the Director of Communications with the Nebraska Corn Board. And I am joined today with Dakota Lovett. Dakota is a student at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln studying animal science. Is that right?
Yes.
Studying
That's
animal
correct.
science, and he was our intern with the U.S. Meat Export Federation, or USMEF, in Denver, Colorado this last summer. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dakota, who is going to provide a short overview of what USMEF is, what they're all about, and then also talk about his internship experience as well.
So I'll just start out a little bit about USMEF, United States Meat Export Federation. So their mission is to increase the value and profitability of U.S. pork, beef, and lamb to industries in enhancing demand for their products in export markets through partnerships and all stakeholders. So simply, USMEF is putting U.S. meat on the world's table. So with USMEF, they have 18 international global offices, and then Denver is the headquarters there in the US. And we deal with, like I said, beef, pork, and lamb exporting out of the country, and we interact with our global offices. So that's a little bit about USMEF. They're in downtown Denver. There's about 30 of them in the office. So when you're in the office, that's one thing I was a little bit worried about going into the internship was the city living, and then downtown Denver, come from Lincoln and Blue Hill, where I grew up, was a little scary. But when you're in the office, you really feel like you're at home because everybody is in the meat industry, ag industry. You're talking about something that you love every day. So that was really unique when I got there. Something that just let me relax, and found out that I really loved it in there. So yeah, what did you want me
Yeah,
to
why
go
don't
on
you,
with?
Dakota, talk a little bit about your internship experiences? Like I mentioned, you were in the office this last summer. Talk about maybe some of your daily tasks and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I got out there in middle of June. Usually it'd be May, at the end of May, but I got out there in person in June, and I was in the office about 3 to 4 times a week, where I would go in when John Henners, the um, internship advisor, is for USMEF. I would be in the office with them, and when I wasn't in the office, we would go on ranch tours. So we went to Running Creek Ranch. Their cattle, we went there all day and branded the cattle and vaccinated them, and their cattle would qualify for China. So different countries have regulations for exports, and so you would learn all that when you're out there. And that's what we usually did when I was not in the office. And if not, I would go to Colorado Corn. I went to represent USMEF at a county fair, which that was really fun. When I was in the office, one of my main projects was collecting the 2019 US or export numbers through beef, pork, and lamb, and how they correspond with corn and our core corn board associations, such as Nebraska Corn Board. And what I would do, I'd collect we would get the data from Dave Juday project, and I would go into you have to do flyers and brochures for different states that help fund USMEF. And so you would take in their export numbers, how much corn would go into exports, red meat exports, and then you would update from 2018 to 2019. And then you would send them out to that state for their own use, whatever they would like to do with it. And then we would make brochures such as these. And then what these brochures would do or show that all the exports and how much beef and pork is exported out of the country. So you go in and work with
I've got one right here too.
There you go. Is that the newest one?
That's the newest one. Yep.
I have to come get some. But so we do 3 brochures. So we do Nebraska Corn Board one. That's something that the internship usually does, or the intern usually does out there. And then we have a soybean corn one. And that's the these other two of the exporting U.S. corn through red meat, and then the Nebraska one specifically. And then, so we did all that. That took up a lot of my time, but it was also very fun because you got to meet with global offices, our representatives over there, and then our marketing team. And then every morning when I was in the office or out of the office, I would join at 8:30 our marketing team Zoom call. And what we did there was just talked about our daily life or what was going on that day, if we needed help. So I got to I ran a few of those, so that was really fun. And our marketing team joined those, and then Dan, our CEO, and then John, and then myself. So those were every morning. Those were really fun. And then I did a lot of Zoom calls with our global offices. So a couple of those were Japan, China, South America, just a bunch of those. And those usually could be at night or in the morning. And then I got to meet a lot of people over at our US, our global offices, which in South America, I met Jessica, and she really loves the Nebraska beef. And so what she told me that something about with this internship, she gave me thanks because she knew as a raise cattle, and for this internship, she really pointed that out, that everyone loves the Nebraska beef. So I think that's something we take privilege of. And so I met those connections, and I still connected with them now. And then lastly, I learned the red meat exports in Africa. I took this book and I just read it a couple nights and learned how that got started, how that market got started, which is very unique, and it goes back to 2014. So I did a lot of that stuff, did a lot of traveling. But yeah, and then we made some banners and some brochures, so that was really fun. And then worked a lot with the marketing team, like I said. So.
Mm-hmm. Dakota, tell us a little bit about how COVID maybe changed this internship from what maybe a normal year would look like.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, I would have usually got out there May, and we kept starting June, but then we pushed it back because Denver was a hot spot and probably still is. So I was very fortunate, unlike some of the others, I got out there into the field, and got there June 15th is when I moved out there. And usually you're in there every day, but since the office was only 50%, or if somebody wanted to come in that day, they would have to schedule that. So I was in the office, like I said, 4 to 3 times a week. There was one week I was in there like once or twice, but usually that amount. So they got me in there usually a lot of the days. But so that was really the only consequence, I guess you could say. But there would be a lot more projects if I was out there, and a lot more visiting other locations. But I did visit in CBA. So when I was out of the office, I got to visit in CBA and Cattlefax, and spent a couple days with each organization and learning about their partnership with USMEF and also what they do on their side. So that was really fun too. But due to COVID, there were some restrictions, but I still got to do a lot what the interns usually would do.
And we're obviously hoping that this next year in 2021, that things will hopefully be a little bit more back to normal. Fingers crossed. Dakota, what skills do you think helped you as an intern, or as interns are thinking of applying? Which skills do you think are really beneficial to this internship that you had with the USMEF?
Yeah, so
or
I think
maybe even like classes too that would help out in this internship, skills classes, whatever.
Yeah, so I think a lot of your economics and animal science classes helped me a lot, but also the skills is the computer skills. Like I dealt with Excel a lot and PowerPoint, and so you would have to deal with those, such as the exports, typing them in there. Those were the mainly skills. And then I was fortunate. I'm studying animal science, meat science focus. So some of my skills was in the meat science field. Um, and going into that internship, I knew what the exports consisted of, but I wasn't deep down into it. But mainly the skills is just your typical computer skills, PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, and then a lot of your economics classes and animal science classes as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Tell us a little bit about what life was like in Denver.
Yeah, so Denver, that was one thing. Like I said, it was going out there. I was a little scared of in the big city. I'm not the best driver in the big city, but I got to learn. I only got honked at a couple times, so um, I actually put those down in my book how many times because I thought it was going to be more than 5, but it wasn't. So I actually lived in Aurora, which is a suburb of Denver, but right downtown. Um, and I was worried at first, but I got used to it the first week. Um, you got used to traffic. You got used to just living in the bigger city. There's a lot to do. So, I went to a lot of museums in Denver. So I went there on my days or on the weekends, and also hiking. I never thought I would be a hiker, but when I got out there, I decided one day to do it, and I hiked 6 miles. So that was really fun. So there's so much to do out there. I wish due to COVID, there was some restrictions, some museums closed, some um, just a lot of things were closed, but I got to do a lot of stuff. So I mean, um, the Denver, I was worried at first, but then I got used to it, and so it really settled down, and got used to the traffic. Usually everyone in Denver is pretty nice, so when they see out of town plates, they're pretty lenient towards you. So, um, but yeah, I enjoyed living there, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, you mentioned that you drove down to Denver. We do give our out-of-state internships an option whether to fly to their destination or to drive. Typically, all of our interns have driven to Denver just because in Denver it's probably more of a necessity to have a vehicle so you can get from place to place. Whereas if you're in DC, it's pretty easy to get from place to place through the metro or Uber or wherever. We do provide round trip mileage, so your trip out to Denver as well as your trip returning trip, or we provide a round trip airfare to and from whichever city you're going to. We also provide students with a $6,000 stipend, which we basically will give to the organizations such as USMEF, and then they use that to pay the interns. And so I don't know if they gave you like a monthly stipend or if it was an hourly wage type of thing, but I don't know, maybe you
Yeah.
can talk
So
about that a bit.
yep. So when I went to such as NCBA, Cadillacs, they're in the same building. But when I took those trips, when I took the county fair trip, when I took out to the ranch, we met up. But where we met at, they all reimbursed me for that gas money, such as the food to going to the county fair, which was about 45, 50 miles outside of Denver. But they paid for all that, and then they reimbursed me. So they're really good about that. They'll teach you. They taught me how to do that. You'll work with the accounting team, but they're really good at getting you reimbursed. And so yeah.
Hmm. I think that's all the questions that I had. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Dakota, that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I chose this internship because one, it was out of state. I really wanted to go out of state, and then also with my background, I felt like the meat exports were something that I felt like I needed to be knowledgeable on, and so that's why I went out for this internship. And it was honestly, I found what I want to do in the future, which is international sales, and along those lines. I found that I really wanted to get in that field this past summer at this internship. So it helped me out a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, thank you very much, Dakota. If any of you are watching this at a later date and have any questions for myself or Dakota, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You should have my contact information on the intern website, which is nebraskacorn.gov/internships, and I can make sure that Dakota gets that question, or someone with USMEF can get that question. Other than that, thanks for joining us today.